guess the audio is working. I just dropped my phone. 2 seconds. Okay. Whew. There we go. So, this week is week 4. We are going over game mechanics. What that means is basically, well, we're continuing to go over game mechanics. Specifically, we are going over sound and effects in this week's lab. Sound and effects are super important in terms of your overall play experience. So, same thing as last time. I'm not going to do the screenshots. I will just verbally prompt you when to take a screenshot. Next time I'll try to have like a little like widget or something that will pop up that will be like screenshot now. If I remember. Okay. So, first thing we're going to need is to download the starter files for the lab. So I'm grabbing my prototype 3 starter file zip. It is done right there. I am going to extract it to my brain should work. There it is. My OneDrive. There we go. And let's get started. So we're going to do our housekeeping stuff while Unity is doing its first compile with that like bonkers 15-minute getting everything ready. Oh no, is Canvas down again? Oh no. Oh, thank goodness. All right. That was scary. Okay. So, gonna pop it over there. Going to start with my hub. There's my hub. Interesting. And we are going to, so we've opened up Unity Hub. We are going to create a new project. This is, again, going to be, sorry for the scrolling. I was hoping I had a screenshot. I'm like 90% sure this one's still going to be 3D. So we're still going to have to do the stuff that we have, where we set up the input and then the render and blah, 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 blah. Ooh, okay. Here's what we're going to do. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go to down all the way to the bottom. We're going to do 3D built-in render pipeline. We're going to hope that that fixes the issue. We're experimenting today. Okay, so this is prototype 3. Make sure it goes in the right spot. Yep. Use version control. New repository. And then we're going to create a project. And then it's going to do its thing where it takes forever. All right. So, sorry, dog. So housekeeping. Couple of things. What is due this week is the lab, and then there is a formal game analysis. So your reading should show you what goes into a formal game analysis. It is more than just, hey, I like this game, or hey, I didn't like this game. So, with that in mind, I had someone email me with a question about getting to the discussion board. for it. So we are not using the built-in Canvas discussion board. Seriously. Okay. There you go. We are not using the built-in Canvas discussion board for this one. We are using a different software that allows me to actually remind you all when stuff is due, like first post, second post. It also allows you to record your answers instead of just typing if you wish. It is not required if you wish. So there are two ways to get to it. First is from the modules. The second is from the agenda. I do apologize. When I first created the page, it's still linked to the regular Canvas discussion board, and I did not catch all of the instances where I needed to update the link. It is updated now. So if you go to your agenda and go to discussion formal games, it's going to bring you to a page like this. You're going to click load discussion. It's going to open up your discussion board, read the instructions, do your posts. Okay, cool. Now that was about perfect. So I'm going to hop back over to my quiz. We are going to open the package manager because we have to do this every time. And we wait again. Okay. Go ahead and do unlock with the JetBrains. That should get rid of our feature there. And then if you have in project, if you have any updates over here, so I just went to in project from over here and then updates. Going to update to 1.9.9 or whatever one if they come out with a new version between now and whenever you do this. Okay. And then it's going to update it. Okay. I realize now that even though the Yeti is picking up, I did not check and make sure that it was actually picking up on the stream. So, give me just a moment. I was just flailing around like a doofus. It is working. All right. So, we have downloaded the starter files. We have created our prototype project. If we have done this correctly, we should not have to do the thing with the render pipeline, and that would be most excellent. We'll see how that goes. We have downloaded them. We have extracted them. We are going to import them. So assets, import package, custom package. We are going to go to wherever our drive is. And grab our Unity package file. And then we are going to import it. All right. So your Unity version control is going to be the tab that is up first. So you want to change it over to your project tab. And then you're going to go to your scenes and you're going to pull out, well, you're going to delete the sample scene that's up here. And then you're going to drag out the prototype 3 scene. Don't save. Hit don't save. Okay. So, we have opened the prototype 3 scene and deleted the sample scene without saving. We are going to select the background object in our hierarchy. And then in the sprite renderer component, which is this component right here, we are going to select one of the 3 materials. So we are going to select either why do we have so many? There it is. All right. So right now we have the town. There it is. I was clicking the wrong thing. That's why. All right. So we have town. We have nature. We have city. Okay. I'm going to leave it on city. And then rip it and ribbit, right? Jeez. All right. This is the time when you would take a screenshot. So take a screenshot. I want you to do your editor showing the script. Okay. Now we need to add a character, because for every game you need a character. So we are going to, in our course library here, not in materials, we want to go to characters. Since we're in town, we are going to pick one and then drag it into the hierarchy. Okay. So here is our player character down there. And then this is best practice. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to name it players. So up here in the top of the inspector, I am just highlighting that and I'm going to rename it player. And then hit enter. You'll notice it updates over here. You can also right click on this and hit rename. Either way works. It does not matter. Okay, the next thing we need to do is add a rigid body component. If you'll remember, our rigid body is what gives our character physics. So mass and how gravity affects it, stuff like that. So we are adding a rigid body component. I went to add component and then typed in rigid, brought it up. And then we are going to add in a component of a box collider. So I just typed in BO. And then the same thing that we did last time, we are going to edit our collider bounds here. So up here in our scene view, you can see the collider. Can't really see our dude. I'm going to drag him in front of the background. I'm going to hide the background so that I can see. Okay. And we're just going to drag it out. That it is covering our little dude. I want to give it a little like extra too. so that it's a little bit more forgiving. Just a tiny bit. There's a fine balance that you will eventually figure out that is like making your colliders big but not too big. So something that is not in here that I see and is just something for me is the fact that our character here thanks much. All right. Is the fact that our character is not looking at like is not facing the correct direction. So I'm going to rotate it. I think it's y-axis. It's not y-axis. X-axis. Not x-axis. Okay, it was y. It just wasn't doing it. There's our little dude. And then we're just going to keep going with it. Instead of negative 279, I'm going to do negative 90. There we go. So rotating him 90 degrees. Now he's actually facing the right direction. So fun bit of trivia before we get back to this. I'm going to add a script component and then go ahead and open it up so that it can start compiling that. But fun bit of trivia is that we are used to things moving from left to right to indicate forward motion. So if you ever want to throw user expectations off, have them move right to left for more forward motion. It feels wrong. All right, so I've named the script player controller. I am hitting create and add. Okay. So it is not, we don't want it to save in our starter files. We want it to save in our project files. So we're going to go here. We're going to hit cancel first. So we don't have a scripts folder. We need a scripts folder within our assets. So go in your assets. We're going to do create folder. And we're going to do scripts. If I can spell scripts. Okay. And then we're going to create the script. Monoscript behavior script. And then use player controller. Okay. And then we're going to let it do its thing. And add it to our player. If you turn in your final and I look at your file management on here and you do not have a scripts folder, I will dock you points. It's bad practice. Organize your stuff. All right. Okay. So we've added the rigid body. We've added the box collider. We've added a scripts. And then player control. It straight up says to add a scripts folder in there. My reading comprehension after a full day of work is in the toilet. All right. And then player controller script and attach it to the player. This is the time to take a screenshot. Cool. All right. So up to this point, we have only done methods that either affect the whole component here, so the whole like player item, or just like transforms, right? So we are going to target something on a game object. Give me just a moment. All right, there we go. So we are going to open up our script here. It is going to open up Visual Studio Code. It is another thing that we need to drag over. Ignore the release notes. So, we are going to start declaring our variables. This is going to be a private variable. You do not want it public so that other people potentially could add it. So we're going to add a private, and we are going to grab a rigid body, and we're going to name that variable player RB. We're not setting it to anything because it is not even like initialized. It's not even started. If we tried to set it to the player character now, it would not do anything because the player character doesn't exist until after start happens. So in start, we're going to go down into a new line. This is after the opening curly bracket before the closing. And we are going to do player RB. We're going to set that variable to actually what it has right here. So get component rigid body. That's capital G, capital C, open bracket, or open like caret. It's a greater than, and then less than, and then open and closing parentheses. And then the next one is going to be our player RB, and we're going to add force of a vector 3 dot up. And then we're going to times that by 1,000. And then we're going to close that line off. I'm just going to clean it up so that they're aligned. What that will do is it will make the player jump at the start of the game. So this is the point where you will take a screenshot of your script, save it, and then I just want to show you what it does. We're going to hit play. If we've done it right, it jumps. There's a slight problem with it. Well, two slight problems. It jumps way too high, and we don't want it to jump off the screen, right? So they should only jump when the spacebar is pressed. So we're going to hop back over to our script, and we are going to take out our vector 3 up here, and we are going to go to our update, and we are going to say if input, we're going to do get key down, and we're going to do key code dot. Oh my God. Cool. Everybody hang on just a second. Yay, puppies. Okay, everything's still working. It seems like everything's still working. Cool. Key code space. Space is usually means up, right? You're used to pressing space for up. So we are going to do it at that point, do a player RB. We're going to add force, which is adding a force of some kind, up, down, left, right, whatever, of vector 3 dot up, and we are going to times it this time by 10 instead of 100. No, sorry, by 100 instead of 1,000. And then we are also going to add a force mode dot impulse. And what that does is it tells it what type of force to apply. So it's not a velocity change. It's not an acceleration. It's not just a straight up force. It's like it's a one time, like it's an impulse. If you think about an impulse action, that should make some sort of sense. Now, we've got a, okay. There you go. Make sure to get your semicolon in there. Let me close the Explorer so you guys can see this a little better. That's the run and debug. That's source Explorer. Whew, there you go. Okay. So, we have taken out the add force up here in the start. We have added an if statement in the update that checks if the key being pressed is the space bar. And then if it is adding a force in the upwards direction of 100, not 1,000, so we don't go off into space. And then it is an impulse, so it happens and then stops. Okay? So, this is that is also needs to go away. This is a point where you take a screenshot, save your script. This is a gentle reminder that if you don't save your script and you go back to your Unity, nothing will have changed because it doesn't automatically update. It updates anytime that you save it. So we're going to hit play. We're going to see if it gives us that error about the inputs. I'm hoping it won't. Nope. Letting it do. Yep. Okay. So we're going to have to do our input class thing again, which means we are going to go to edit. We are going to go to settings. We are going to go to player. We are going to scroll down to active input handling and then both. Save. It's going to do the thing where it has to go through and reload everything. The good news is we didn't have to do the renderer this time, so I feel like we're making progress on things that we have to fix every time we go through here. But we did have to fix the input. So again, that was edit, project settings, player, scroll down to input handling. Just hit dismiss on that. And then change active input handling to both. Okay. A little later in the term, I might switch it over to the active input handling, but like, there's not really a performant, like, it's not more performant to do it one way or another that I've found. So, like, it's fine to do it this way. So now we're going to hit play. We're going to watch our scene down here. Okay, we still shot off into space. So we need to do some tweaking still. That's fine. So now we're going to do some things so that we can fine tune our jumping, right? So I'm going to hop back over to my script here. And we're going to add a couple of new variables. We're going to add one for jump force and one for gravity. So we're going to do a private We're going to do a float, and we're going to call it jump, capital or lowercase j, or uppercase f, jump force, semicolon, and then private float of gravity, nope, no space, capital M modifier. Okay, so you may notice when you're typing these in that they're kind of like grayed out, they're a little less saturated. That's because we've declared them, which means that we've like created them, but we haven't assigned them to anything, so they just kind of exist emptily out in the world. Cool. So now we're going to set them. So at start, we are going to set our gravity, and the way that we do that is physics dot gravity, and we're going to set it, oops, sorry, you're going to do asterisk equal to gravity modifier. So let me explain a couple of things. First off, the little g big M and gravity modifier, that is called camel case. It doesn't, realistically, it does not matter if you do that or not. The most important thing is that you are consistent. So if you do all caps, or if you do all lowercase in your variables, that's fine. Every time you call that variable, you have to do the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Also, like camel case is pretty standard for programming. So if somebody else is looking at your code and seeing that, they're not going to be surprised, which is not like, it's not a rule that you have to do it. It is kind of a best practice. The next thing is why I'm doing asterisk equal. So in C# that we're using, are we doing that or C+? No, it's CS. Sorry, I know too many programming languages. So in most programming languages, if you want to do something times like itself times another thing, the way that you do that is like asterisk equals. You can also do plus equals. All that means is it's the exact same thing as writing out that is equal to physics gravity times gravity modifier. But it's so much like less time and characters to just do the asterisk equals. Not asterisk plus, asterisk equals. So that's the same thing as saying physics.gravity equals physics.gravity times gravity modifier. Okay. Next, oh, you know what? These are supposed to be public. I apologize. Public float. Public. Okay. Public is anytime you want it to be reachable by the like inspector window, right? So here we are going to, instead of saying times 100, we are going to do times jump force. And jump force is going to be a number that we're going to set. Okay. Next, we are going to save it. And we're going to do some experimenting. So I'm going to let it compile. We're going to grab our player here. If you go down to our script now, you see that it has a jump force of 0 and a gravity modifier of 0. So let's see what happens if we do it just with this. Okay, it's going. So there's no gravity, and he floats away forever, right? You can see him up there. I'm gonna hit stop. Let's do a gravity modifier of 10. Okay. And then hit stop. Okay. So now, if you try to jump, he cannot jump because the jump force is 0. So it is adding a force of 0 to it. So let's try adding a jump force of 10. And then trying it. I mean, that's okay. That's not super great. So let's maybe try gravity modifier of 1. And then see what happens. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Let's try 50. Okay, that's too much. Pull it back. You know what? 25 seems reasonable. So, I'm sure some of you were like, wait a second. Yes, I did it in play mode so that we could test it so that we get our values. Now, you'll notice when I hit stop, it reverts it back. So we got to kind of remember. So we're going to do a jump force 25, gravity modifier of 1. Okay? Make sure to save often. And then I want you to paste in the screenshot of your inspector window just so I can see what your jump force and gravity modifier were. They don't have to be 25 and 1. Just do it till you feel like it works for you. All right. So, here's a new problem. Watch this. Ready? Okay. So, it's not a problem if I am a reasonable person. No, what? Oh, it was 25 and 10, huh? Oh, bloopers. Okay. Okay. It is not a problem if I am a reasonable person and I hit space and then let him fall down. It is a problem if I am a person who likes to break games and I press space a bunch of times and then I go up in space. And then he might eventually come down. Maybe. Probably not, though. So, like, there's some value to doing this for, like, a double jump. That's how they do that. But we only want them to jump once and then not be able to jump again until they're back on the ground. Okay? So, we're going to hop back over to our script. And we're going to... It helps if I press the right button. We're going to do a couple of things. So, we're going to make a new variable. And that variable is going to be a public bool. So bool just means boolean. A boolean value has either a 0 or a 1. True or false is on ground. And we're going to initialize it, so set it as its initial value to true. Okay? So we're setting this variable of is on ground as true. Because when the game very first starts, like even before it starts, dude is on the ground, right? Or whatever person you chose is on the ground. That is not necessarily true after the game has started and they start jumping. So we're going to, in our update, we're going to add in a second statement into our if, which is double ampersand. Okay? Double ampersand just means and. So if this is true and this other thing is true. So if they are pressing down space and they are on the ground, then they can jump. But we want to set whether or not they're on the ground to false. Because they're no longer on the ground, right? So we're going to set that to false. Okay. And then we are going to add a new method of a collision enter. So you remember we did collisions last time to check if the food was hitting the animals. We're doing the same kind of thing here. So we're doing a private void. Void just basically means that it's a method or a function, sorry. I can't remember which way they're named in, I think it's method. Yeah. Okay. And then on collision enter, it's going to say collision collision. And then if it hits anything, we are going to set is on ground to true. I can already hear some of you saying, well, we're going to get to that. Don't worry. We do this in iterations, which means we do something, we try, we build on it from there. If you go through and you do a bunch of stuff at once and then something doesn't work, you don't know what thing doesn't work. This is why we're doing this in pieces. Okay, so we are going to save that, minimize it, let it do its thing. We're going to hit play. And then, so you can see the way that it shows a Boolean is whether or not it's checked. So right now, yes, it's on ground. Okay. So watch when they jump. Okay. So now I try to hit it multiple times and I cannot. Okay. Gonna hit stop. If that works correctly, take a screenshot of your script and then paste it there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some obstacles because yeah, we got the player on there. Great. He can jump. Awesome. We need stuff for them to jump over. So what we're going to do is go into our obstacles and I'm going to grab a barrel and I'm going to position it where it should spawn. So you can't see it. Why is my thing backwards? Oh, okay. Here's what we're gonna do. Our player is like way forward. So we're gonna position them to 0, 0, 0. We're going to move our camera back a little. And then we're going to grab our barrel and we're going to move it along that axis. There we go. So the problem that we're having, why I can't see anything, is that I'm actually like behind it. Well, damn. So here's our little dude, right? Golly. There we go. Now, I do foresee a problem with the barrel being where it is. It is not directly in front of the player. We want it kind of in front of the player. So make sure that your Z is set to 0 here. Your Y should also realistically be set to 0. Your X-axis is what you want it to move along. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to rename it as obstacle. Obstacle. There we go. And then we're going to add a rigid body to it. So RIG. Okay. And then a box collider. You're going to get, like, every time it's going to be box collider, or a collider and a rigid body. If you ever have problems with stuff being like, I can't, it's not working, the first thing I'm going to ask you is there a collider on it? And is there a rigid body on it? And don't worry if there's not, because sometimes even I do that. Looks pretty good to me. Okay. And then we're going to create a new prefabs folder in our assets here. So assets, right click, create folder, prefabs. And then we're going to drag our obstacle down into our prefabs. We're going to hit original prefab. Okay. And then we're going to create a new script on it. Add component. New script. And we're going to name it move left. Can you guess what that script is going to do? Okay. We're going to let it compile there. And then we are going to open it. All right. So this may start to become like semi-familiar. We're going to do some of the things that we've already done. So we're going to create some sort of variable for our speed. So we're going to do private float. We're going to name it speed. We're going to not set, oh no, we're going to set it to something. 30. Okay. Okay. And then we're going to, in our update, we're going to transform translate the object left by the time, the time code times the speed. So, yeah. All right. So, we're going to do that with a transform.translate. Okay. And then it is going to be a vector3 of left. And then it is going to be times time dot delta time and times speed. Okay. The other thing we're going, so save that. Down. So to create, here's the thing about this game. Everything is moving but the player. So the obstacles are moving, the background is moving, the player is not. It's kind of a cool way, because the camera is static, right? So it's kind of a cool way to move, like give a sense of movement, but not have to render a whole city scene and a whole bunch of objects at once. So we're going to apply the move left script also to our background. So I'm just going to drag it up to background. Okay. Okay. And then we are going to send in a screenshot of your move left script. I'm going to hit play so you can see what it looks like. Yeah. Okay. So I can again already hear you. We are going to fix it. Again, iterations. But we need to do a couple of things. We need to create a spawn manager. So that is going to, just like the other one, handle spawning in our stuff. So we do that with a create empty. We are going to name that spawn manager. And then we're going to add a component of a script, and we are going to name it Spawn Manager. Okay. So instead of doing an array like we did last time, where we had 3 different objects, this time we are going to just do one. So we're going to do it the same, sort of. So we're going to do a public game object. So public game object. We're going to name it obstacle prefab. Obstacle prefab. We're not going to set it to anything because we're going to set it in the inspector. And then we're going to create a new, like, a vector 3 that is going to tell us where to spawn our object. So it is going to be a public vector 3. I'll see if I can spell. Called spawn pause for spawn position. You could also just name it spawn position. Just got to be consistent again. New vector 3. We're going to set it to, once we open our parentheses, 25, 0, and 0. And then we close our parentheses and we semicolon it. And we hit save. So the first thing we need to do after we create our, I've kind of done 2 and 3 together, but if you're following along here, we got to go back and do a thing. So we've declared a new public game object. The thing we need to do in the middle is, in the spawn manager, we need to add our obstacle prefab into our game object here. Also, I just see it's not a typo, but it is a mistake that I made. This is not a public, this is a private. So it's a private vector 3 spawn position. In this case, it's not going to do anything if you don't, but like, in general, you don't want to expose stuff to the front end that you don't have to. Okay, so at start, the last thing we're going to do is instantiate an object or an instance of the obstacle, right? So like when the game first starts, you want it to start by making an obstacle and then having it start moving towards you. So we're going to instantiate, and it is going to be our obstacle prefab, instantiating at our position, so spawn position, comma, and then we are going to have it at its transform rotation. So like this just going to set it basically to 0. Obstacle prefab dot transform dot rotation. Okay. And then hit save. Okay. After it's done, we're going to delete our obstacle from the hierarchy. Do not delete it from your prefabs folder. That would be a bummer. And then we're going to hit play and test. And if we've done it right, we should see a barrel spawn, and then there goes the barrel. Okay. So now it spawns on start. Just want to make sure here. 0, 0. Yeah, okay. Cool. But we need to like spawn stuff at regular intervals, right? So, also we need to modify the character's rigid body so that instead of being knocked over, it is not knocked over. Let me check one thing. Okay, yeah. Cool. Just making sure. So let's get started on that. We are going to open up our spawn manager, and we're going to create a new void here. So we're going to do void. Doesn't you don't need to do public or private of spawn obstacle. We're going to do our instantiate. So I am just going to, I clicked 3 times to highlight the whole line, and then I clicked and dragged it down. You can also Control C, Control V. All right. And then in our start, we're going to do some things. So first we need to create some variables for our start delay and then our repeat rate. So we're going to do private float for both of start delay. We're going to set that to 2. Haha. Dang it. Spell. Semicolon. And then private float of repeat rate. And we're going to set it to 2. Okay. And then the last thing is we are going to add in our start, the invoke repeating method. So we used this last time, we're going to use it again. Invoke repeating. So that means just call it repeatedly. We are changing or adding in the name of the method for it. So spawn obstacle. You do not need the parentheses. And then it is going to start at our start delay, so after 2 frames. And then it's going to happen at our repeat rate. And then we close our parentheses and we semicolon. Okay? We're going to save that. And then we're going to go back to our Unity editor. And then we're going to go to our player. And in our rigid body, so kind of down near the bottom of it, there's an option for constraints. We want to freeze. Let me say, make sure that I'm telling you the right thing. So we want to freeze all but the Y position. So the player should not rotate. It should not move left and right. It should just shouldn't move left or forward. But we're going to test it just to make sure. So it's instantiating, which is great. Problem is, it's not stopping when our dude stops, right? Like, our dude should be stopping or ending the game when he hits the barrels. So, we're gonna get there. But we need to repeat the background. So we are going to go to our background object. We are going to create a new script. We're going to call it repeat background. Repeat background. We're going to save it there, and we're going to open it. Okay. So we are going to create a new variable, private vector3, like we did with the other. So it's position of start position. We're not going to, strat. So start pause. We're not going to set it to anything because at start, we're going to get the initial position then. So in our void start after the opening curly bracket before the end of it, we're going to set our start pause to the position of the object. So the way that you do that is just transform dot position. So that says get the position of the object at start. Cool deal? All right. The next thing we're going to do is create an if statement that checks if it is moved a certain distance. And if it does, set it back to the initial position. So if you are doing this for yours, you will need to know the size of your object. The reason that we know that it's -50 on here is because it is 50 in our scale. Like it's that big lengthwise. So if you're doing this for yours, if it's a different size than that, you would need to change the number that we're going to do. So we're going to do transform dot position dot x if it is less than the start position dot x -50. If that is the case, we are going to set it to the start position. So transform dot position equals start pause. There you go. So save. Bear with me just a moment. I will be right back. All right, I have returned. Okay. So we did the update, write an if statement to reset the position if it moves a certain distance. Now I need you to do a screenshot of your script and then make sure you save. And then we're going to hop back over and we're going to hit play and let's see if it loops. All right, and we're looping. Okay. So, we've got it moving. Great. But, it looks, you can see it. It looks pretty awkward, right? So we're gonna, have it loop like seamlessly. So to do that, we are going to add a box collider component to the background. Okay. And then in our, not our move left script, but in the repeat background script, we're going to create a new private float. And we are going to call it repeat with. Repeat with. And then in our start, we are going to set it to our box collider component size. So get component less than box collider greater than open close parentheses dot size. Whoa, what happened there? Dot size dot x. So the size of the x of it divided by 2. So basically, what we're doing is we're setting it to half of the length of our background. And then what we need to do is take out the 50 and change that to repeat width. And then we're going to save it. Take a screenshot of your script. And then we are going to hit play. And that loops much nicer, yeah? All right. So now what we want to do is anytime the player collides with an obstacle, we want it to like game over, right? Because the whole thing is you want it to that's the whole game loop. So we need to figure out whether or not the player is colliding with the ground or an obstacle. Okay. So in the inspector on our ground object, we need to add a tag. So right now it is untagged. We are adding a tag of y. Why you do this? God. I don't know why it did that. It did not render everything. Weird. Weird. Alright, so you hit the plus, and we're going to name it ground. Save. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and just add the obstacle as an option so that I don't have to go in there and chance it being weird again. Alright, so ground, we're going to do, instead of untagged, we're tagging ground. And then we're going to grab one of our obstacle prefabs. And we're going to name it obstacle. And then remember, overrides is apply all. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to, in our player controller, we are going to add a new bool that is checking whether or not it's a game over, okay? So we're going to go into our player controller script here. And Irene, I guess you're a good puppy. We are going to ha ha ha. Yeah. So for now it's going to be public. We're going to add, make sure you're in the player controller. We are going to add another public bool. So public bool, and it is going to be game over. We're going to set it to false, equals false, yeah? And then we're going to add an if statement to our on collision enter to see if it is a ground or an obstacle, right? So the way that you do that is right above where it says is on ground. I'm going to just start there. So if, no, if collision dot game object dot compare tag. So it's asking it to compare the tag. Is ground. Okay, so if the collision has the game object has a tag of ground, we want to curly brace, delete the other one, and add it right after is on ground equals true. So if the collision of the game object has a compare tag of ground, sets the tag to true for is on ground. Okay. Else, if collision dot game object dot compare tag equals obstacle, we set the game over to true. And in our debug log down at the bottom, we are going to say game over. In later lessons, we're going to go over how to actually do that in like UI. So like actually show the player that it would happen. So take a screenshot of your script. Okay. Save it. And I'm gonna go ahead and delete this obstacle. All right, I'm gonna highlight my player here. So in here you can see is like game over is not selected. So let's play. We're not gonna jump. We're gonna see what happens. What should happen? Yep, as soon as it hits an obstacle, it says game over. And then if we check our debug log here, every time it's hitting one, it's saying game over, right? Okay. So, the problem is that everything still moves when there is a game over. The game should stop when there's a game over. So we need to make some changes. So what we're going to do is go over to our move left script because we want it to stop moving left at that point. And we're going to add a new variable. It is going to be a private player controller of player controller script. You could also like declare it as a public player controller and then just grab the script and like put it in there. But again, you're not wanting to expose as much as possible to that front end. So this allows them to talk behind the scenes, basically. So in start, we are going to set our player controller script equal to game object dot find. So it is literally saying go out and look for the saying. We are looking for the player. And then we are going to get component of player controller. Okay. Don't ask me how it knows which script, like, is your player controller script as a component. It's magic. It's not magic. It's something in the library defined, but I don't know what exact thing it is. Okay. And then we are going to then have it in the update to check if game over is true from that. Okay. So if player controller script dot game over equals false, that's when we want everything to move less. So it's constantly checking if the game over in that other script has ever like been true, and if it is, then it's going to stop everything moving. Okay. So we're going to save that, send in a screenshot of your updated move left script, and then let's see what that does. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to hit play. All right, so now when he collides with a barrel or whatever obstacle you've chosen, game stop. Okay. Cool, they stop, but it's still, I don't know if you noticed, but that does not tell the spawn manager to stop spawning obstacles. So it is going to spawn them forever. So we need it to also tell it to stop when game over is true. So we're going to do the same kind of thing, but in our spawn manager. So I am going to grab this line right here. I'm clicking 3 times. That highlights the whole thing. Or you can drag for it to highlight. And then we're going to move it over to our spawn manager. Now, you can't have 2 variables in the same script name the same thing, but you can have 2 variables in 2 different scripts name the same thing. Okay. And then we are going to go over and grab our player controller script line here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Control C, Control V, Command C, Command V. Same thing. Player controller script, setting that to the player. And then the last thing is our if statement. So, like, programming is not like most other classes to where you can't reuse stuff. Good programming means that you reuse stuff all the time. Because if it works in one spot, it should work in all spots. And if you had to write stuff over and over and over, you would never get anything done. So take a screenshot of this, your spawn manager script, save it. You know what? I haven't saved my scene and project in a while. I should probably do that. So we're going to save and save. Control S does both. Okay. So now let's hit play. Every once in a while, you should also check in and check out your version control. Okay, so obstacle clone works. Okay, so our version control, we're gonna check it in. Add a comment. Where's our comment? Where? There it is. When you're actually doing these in your logs, please make sure to do better comments than that. Okay, so that has added everything, or is going to add everything in there, right? Oh, gotta make sure everything is checked up there. Okay, there we go. You can tell it's done it when it says there's no pending changes. Okay. So just get used to saving and checking in fairly often. It's a bummer to be working on something and then lose it. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is, just like our animal one, is once something is out of bounds, so if you successfully jump over it, then you need to destroy it, right? Once it's gone. So in the move left stripped is where we're going to change that. So I'm going to go over here to our move left. Can you go over and just grab the stuff from your other one and tweak it? Yes. You can also just type it. It's not that much in this case. So we're going to do a private float, and we're going to name it left bound. So that is going to set our boundary on the left of like at what point it should destroy it. This is again just one that, like, since we know the defined like dimensions of it. Okay. And then we are going to add some things here. So if it's false, do this. But if transform, goodness sakes, stupid autofill, transform dot position dot x is less than, because it's negative, left bound, and the game object compare tag is an obstacle, do this. Why do we have to put in that and in the second one? Because our background's moving too. So if we just like destroyed anything, once it got to that -15, it would destroy our background. So then we do destroy and game object. Close our parentheses and semicolon. Save. Okay. See, now I have to actually be good enough to jump over these. All right. We're gonna test. I hit one. But you can see that it destroyed the one because there's only one there. Okay. All right. What I've not been doing in here and is poor practice, so I've not been commenting. So make sure you comment your code. So I'm going to add in a comment. And it doesn't have to be much. Destroys obstacles once left a leave you bounds. Okay. In the update, it checks if game is over and loose. See, they don't have to do much. You're like, just, that's all you need. Just make sure to comment your stuff. Okay. I don't know if I've told this story before or not, but I have this one piece of code that I've made that has a load-bearing comment in it to where it only works if I have this one comment in there and there's no reason for it and I can't figure it out. So I just don't mess with it. Sometimes that happens. All right. So now we want our character to animate it. So we want it to be able to run, to jump, to even have a death animation. So we are going to work on the animation controller. Animation controllers are really cool. You can absolutely go down a rabbit hole with them. So feel free to play. Okay. So we're going to find our animation controller here. Aha. And then we're going to click on it. So this brings up our animation controller window. And there are different layers. There are different parameters. There are different movement, or sorry, I'm on the movement. So there are, there you are. There you go. Middle mouse, by the way. So this is the idle animation. So it's got an idle animation, it's got a walk animation, it's got a different walk, it's got a run, it's got a grenade throw, all of these different things, right? So if you click on different states, you should be able to see it. Warnings are okay. Errors are not. Okay. If you hit open. Oh, nope. You don't want to open the file. My bad. Okay. It's supposed to show you it. That's bizarre. Double click it. So weird. Don't want to open the FBX file, guys. Come on. That's fine. So we're gonna go over to sync. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go over to the parameters tab. Wait, we're going to make sure I'm on the right layer. Okay. So we're going to go over to the parameters tab and we're going to change speed F, so speed frame, to 1. And then we are going to go to our movement And then we are going to right click on run static and set layer as default state. What that's going to do is it is going to set the run to the it's going to set the run to what it's doing all the time. So it is the default at that point. And then we are going to single click it. It's already like clicked. But then we are going to set the speed to the same speed that we have our background. So for that, we need to look at our background. What is our background speed? What do we have it for move left? So our move left, our speed is 30. Okay. So run static, speed 30. Okay. Let's see how that looks, shall we? Hey, that's way too fast. Hey, that's way too fast, bud. 1 is good. Okay. So, copy and paste this into the inspector. Specifically your run controller, by the way. Or, sorry, your animation controller. So, like, the run animation looks great, but, like, jump, not so much, right? But, we need to add a jump animation. Luckily, they have one for us, right? So, we are going to stop here. We're going to save. And we are going to go to our player controller script. Okay, player controller. We are going to create a new variable. So it is going to be a private animator. Thank goodness for autofill. We're going to call it player anim for player animation. And then in our start, we're going to do kind of the same thing we did with the Rigibani. We're going to set the player anim to the component. So get component of animator. Thank goodness for autofill. All right. And then an update in our jump area, right after where it says is on ground of false. We are going to set the trigger to jump trigger. So we're going to set the animation to jump trigger. So new line, player anim equals, nope, dot set trigger. Okay. And that is going to be jump underscore trig. Why is it jump trig? I will show you. Okay, save that. In our jumping in our triggers, it is named. There it is. Okay. Jump underscore trig. Killing me, Smalls. Dogs are killing me. Okay, so let's check that. Let's see. So he runs, jumps, and stop. Cool. It's actually starting to look like a real game. Okay. So, we're gonna change some of the variables just to make everything look okay. So in our animator window, which we still have up here, we're gonna click on the running jump state. So I had already clicked on, in my layers, the jumping layers. So we're gonna click the running jump. So like, it's looking right for the run state. And since we've set the movement, the static run as our default, that's why it's using the running jump. We're going to click on it, and we have our parameters here. We are going to slow down the animation. So I'm gonna do like a 0.5. We're gonna play with it. Okay. And then we're going to adjust the player's mass, jump force, and gravity modifier. Okay. So first off, let's check the animation. So, okay, so 0.5 is like a little too slow. Let's try 0.85. That's much better. It's still like a little. I would 0.5 is comfy for me. And again, I'm doing this in not play, because if you do it in play, it's not gonna happen once you stop. Okay, and then we're going to potentially adjust the player's mass. So to do that, we gotta click our player, and then in our so the jump force and the gravity modifier you can change, and then the mass is in our rigid body. So I would change this to like 15. Let's see how this does. This is one of the times when you can play around in play. Just make sure to take note. Okay, so now he's very heavy. So we got to change our jump force and gravity modifier. So let's change the jump force to 50. And like, you could actually like physics it out. But, okay, that's still way too low. Okay. Yeah. Here's what we're gonna do. Let's take that mass down to 5. Let's take that down to 5. Just play with it, right? And then once you get it to where you want it, take a shot of your animator window. And then the last thing we need is instead of just like continuing to run when it hits something, we've got to make it like bleh, when it's done, right? We want a death animation, because that is good feedback to our users that the game is over. So I'm going to go over to our player controller. We are going to do a same thing. We've already got the animator, so we don't need to change that. So we're going to do player anim dot set bool. So on the death animations, it has a boolean of whether or not the player is dead, or what type of death animation to use. So we are going to change it to death underscore B and true. So this is saying if it's a game over state, we're going to choose the B animation. And we are going to set an integer for the death type int, comma, 1. Close parentheses, semicolon. Save. Okay, so where did I get those values from? In our animator, on death, we have all of these, right? So we have, if it is alive, we at some point need to make it dead, right? So within here, we are saying that we are choosing this death when, like, it's telling it to use this pathway when this happens, right? And then it's also saying which death animation to use. So those are the two things. So we've got death B and death type N. So death, oh, let's see if this works, because this says death 1. So I'm very curious. If this doesn't work, we're going to need to change the B to 01. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Hmm. Very interesting. Oh, that's right. It's in the parameters. Apologies. So, this is setting this to true. And then it is setting which one of these to choose. So it's choosing the first one in there. Okay. So, the last thing we need to do, well, last couple of things for this part is, like, once you're dead, you can still jump because it knocks you back, right? And that's kind of disturbing and weird. So we need to change that. So, I went too far down. I went too far down. Okay. So, the last thing we need to do is stop them from jumping when they're dead, which is a fun sentence to say. So, we are going to go to our update. We are going to say if the input is space, if they are on the ground, and it is not, that is what the exclamation point means. That means not. Game over. Okay? So it's saying if it is not this game over variable, basically if it's not set to true, then you can still jump. If it is, you can jump. So take a screenshot of that. We'll test it. And then we're going to move on to particle effects and sound effects, which is super fun times. Okay. Dead. Can't jump. Cool. Done. Alright, so we need to... I'm going to go back over to my scene view here. So the animator was just another tab on my scene view. We are going to go to the particles, and we are going to... oh yeah. We don't want animations. We don't want animations. Course library particles. Alright, we are dragging out the explosion smoke. Cool. So you can use the play and pause buttons. Oh, sorry, play is restart, stop. So restart, stop. To preview it. And then I want you to play with this. So, things like the start color. So I'm going to change it to teal-ish because that's my favorite color. Yeah, well, there's good. Let's see it now. See, teal. You can play with the rotation. You can play with the speed. You can play with the gravity. Play with all of these. Particle systems are some of my favorite things to play with. They are so freaking fun. Like, you can go down a crazy rabbit hole with them. So I'm going to change a couple of things just so you can see. So that's super subtle. The gradient is, okay, let's see it now. Yeah, see, it can change from that to that. You can add external forces on it. So do you want it to, like, have, like, winds? Do you want it to... There's so many things. Play around, okay? The thing that you need to do is uncheck a thing for me, right? So, there is a setting here for play on awake. No. Where are you? Always takes me a minute to find it. Duration, looping, start delay, start song. Where are you at? Play on awake. Make sure it's unchecked. So it's right after scaling mode. Okay. And then we want to drag it onto our player. And then we want to kind of position it on the player. So we're going to drag it over. You can do that. You can also, like, since it's childed to the player, the position of it is set to the position of the player. So, like, zeroing out will center it on the player. So if we play now, we see it's playing then. Go ahead. It doesn't say in here, but go ahead and send me a screenshot of your player with the hierarchy so that I can see that it's on there. Okay. So we've added the thing on there. It's super awesome. Now we need to make it go. So when it runs into an obstacle, we want to fire that particle system, right? So we're going to go over to our player controller. We are going to add a new, this one is going to be public because we need to be able to drag our particle system onto it. So it's a public particle system. I can't spell. Okay, and it's going to be explosion particle. Okay. And then in the one for obstacles, so on collision, enter obstacle, somewhere around there, we are going to want to play the particle. So we're going to call it as explosion particle dot play, open and close parentheses, semicolon, save. And now when he hits something, it should play. You're going to want to put a screenshot of your player controller script to where I can see that explosion particle play in there. Oh, for goodness sakes. You got freeze on me? This is why you save often, guys. Are you actually going to crash on me? Butts and beans. Okay, it's going to crash here any second. There it goes. So if you were saving and checking in after every step, you'd be fine. I was not. Alright, let's see how far back we are, huh? You got a particle system on there? No, we don't. Alright. Thank goodness. Alright. Cool, so, this is gonna be my scene now. Okay, that's fine. Alright, let's test if it plays, huh? Okay, cool, 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 cool. Okay. Drag the particle system in there. Check out our animator. still in there. All right. Good. We didn't lose that much. I'm gonna save. I'm gonna grab all of that. I'm going to yeah. Luckily that wasn't that bad. All right, so next we need to make the dirt splatter so that when we're running, it looks like they're kicking up dirt. So we are going to drag out in the particles the dirt splatter so that it becomes a flare. We're going to center it on the flare. Actually, I want to move it just like the hairist back. You want it behind, right? All right. And then we are going to edit its settings. I'm not going to edit anything with it. We're going to go over to our player controller. We are going to add a public particle system. We're going to call it dirt particle. Okay, and then in update, if we are jumping, we want it to stop. So we are going to say dirt particle dot stop, open and close parentheses, semicolon. We are going to, if it is on ground, play it, open and close parentheses, semicolon. If we are dead, we are going to stop it. Okay, save. Send me a screenshot of your updated player controller script. Make sure that, yeah, that's what I thought. Make sure that play on awake is unchecked. Okay. Ooh, my computer is chugging. Oh, you know what? I forgot to drag it over. Okay, there we go. There we go. You can see it happening. Save. Okay, so we need to add music and sound effects. So the camera acts as our eyes and ears. So we're going to do a sound component. So I'm going to drag this back over, drag the scene, grab our main camera here, and then we are going to add a component, and we are going to type in audio source. AU audio source. In the audio clip variable, it doesn't say audio clip anymore. It says audio resource. So we're going to go into our sound. We're going to go into our music. Dadgummit. Camera. We are going to grab one of these. So I have my computer muted. So let's see if we can mute. We'll see if the mic can pick it up. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. Oh, criminy. All right. I'm going to hit play, and then I'm going to stop talking so it doesn't pick me up. Is that my stream going in the background? All right. Blessed quiet. I always forget how obnoxiously loud that is. Jeez. All right. We're going to reduce that volume. I'm going to reduce it real low. And then we are also going to hit loop because we want it to keep playing, even though it's obnoxious. I think it's obnoxious. And then you're going to take a screenshot of your inspector window, paste it in right there. I want to make sure that your volume is down and that your loop is checked. Okay, now we are going to add some sound effects. So these are going to come from the player, not the camera. Think of the camera sound as like global sound, player sound as like localized. So we are going to go over to our player controller script. We are going to create a new audio source. So it's going to be private audio source. And it is going to be called player audio. On start, we are going to get the component of audio source. So player audio equals get component audio source. Also, if somebody emailed me and I apologize, I haven't emailed you back. If your thing is not autofilling like mine is, extensions, make sure that the Unity extension is installed. I've got a crud ton. The one that you want is the one that just says Unity and then it's by Microsoft. Okay. So we've set it to the get component audio source. We are going to have to add a component to it, right? I haven't missed that. And we are going to Okay, so we're going to add a public audio clip component. We're going to call it jump sound. And a public audio clip, not gravel sound, jeez, crash sound. Okay. We hop back over to our inspector now. We click on our player. You'll notice we've got jump sound and crash sound down here. We are going to grab that from our sound effects. I'm going to just grab whichever. I do not care. There we go. So that's great, but now we need to make them work, right? So we're going to add an audio source component because that's our speaker, basically. And then we're going to hop back, we're going to save, and then we're going to hop back over to our script, and then we're going to create this private audio source player audio. Then we're going to initialize it here, so player audio equals get component of audio source, and then we're going to actually use it. So in our jump, we're going to say player audio dot play one shot, which means play it one time, of jump sound. Okay, so the reason why we are not doing it in quotes, even though it defaults to that, is because since we declared it as a variable, it's not a string. So a string is like a series of letters. It's like a word, right? A variable is an object. They're different. So jump sound, and we are going to play it for one frame. 1, 0, 5. Okay. Don't forget your semicolon. I'm going to copy and paste this to our obstacle. And we're just going to change it to the crash sound. Okay. Save. And then send me a screenshot of this. And then test it. And then submit it. Yes, I do. It's fine. Okay. Interesting. All right. Unity is fun. Okay. So now we should be able to hear. Wait a second. I'm going to turn this way down. All right. The jump and the other might be obnoxious. It's still so freaking loud. So there's a jump. There's a crash. It works. Yay. All right. So that is it. Again, this one took me like 3 hours with a bathroom break in there. So like, give yourself time. Take lots of breaks. I will go through and eventually add chapters in. Sort of the function of this class is the fact that the software changes so much every time. I cannot pre-record my lectures because as soon as I record them, they're basically out of date, which makes it a little bit challenging for making them in little nice digestible chunks. And I know that's a bummer for you guys. That's why I do them on YouTube, so that you can pause and like change the speed at which you watch them if you need. But get that in. I know that Canvas was down and some of you were not able to turn in last week's. If that is the case, it's open until the end of the month. If you need it beyond that, please let me know so that I can reopen it. This one is due on Sunday, barring any more crazy Amazon Web Services outages. I am done with this for the night, so as always, reach out if you need any help or have any questions, and I will see you next week. All right, bye.